अस्सलाम वालेकुम dear students. जो topic हम पढ़ रहे हैं that's models. We have been discussing it from the last few days. So this is perhaps the third lecture regarding the same. I've been actually highlighting the some important usages of these models. I know that the basics and other uses you will try to study it from grammars by yourself and further, I had already told you in the beginning that as for this grammar is concerned, there are no hard and fast rules. I cannot cover all the areas of this grammar, but these things may help you only. So it's mostly based on common sense, and you have to read out English texts as much as you can. As for this grammar is concerned, this is something like simultaneous process. When you study a lot, when you read a lot, then you need not to worry about grammar. So these things get polished with the passage of time. So there's nothing to worry about it. But for examination purposes, particularly for students of secondary students, they need to be aware of some things that they have to follow in the examinations. As for the students of higher levels, they are mature and they study well. They have already studied well. They have already studied a lot, so that has already helped them to they can do it on their own common sense, based on common sense. So I'm discussing today where to use must and ought to, since they are almost similar, but they have some differences as well. For these models, one thing must be very clear to you, that models actually determine the mood of the speaker. So models determine the mood of a speaker. So whether speaker gives the permission, asks the permission, shows desirability, or shows capacity, ability, or willingness, or tiredness, or anything, models determine all these things. As for the action, main action is concerned, that's already shown by the main verb. Models determine the mood only. So that's why. Otherwise, as for the sentence constructions are concerned, you can use any model. Sometimes a sentence can have more than one, more than two, more than three, four, five, six models. All can fit, and there is no problem in writing sentences using any model. All structures are correct. But here we are not talking about sentence structures. It's basically we are trying to explain what's the mood of the speaker. It depends upon the situations, which model should a speaker use, and what meaning it alters the meaning, it changes the meaning. So that's the only thing. So I have written certain things about must. Must expresses necessity or obligation. Zururat, the bay, obligation, zimdari. You must improve your spelling. What's it? It's a necessity. We must get up early. It's an obligation. Yesterday we had to get up early. But see, when we are expressing the same thing, the obligation in the past, there is no form of this must. Must has only first form, must, no past. So if you want to express any obligation in the past, you say had to. Yesterday we had to get up early. That's you need to keep in mind. And there's a slight difference between must and have to. If obligation comes from speaker, मतलब अगर किसी वक्त किसी जिम्मेदारी आप खुद पर impose कर रहे हैं, speaker imposes some obligation on his own self, then it's better to use must. But we use have to if obligation comes from somewhere else. What does that mean? If someone else instructs you, directs you, advises you for a certain action or doing a certain action, so at that time have to is more appropriate. For example, I must be on a diet. I must be on a diet. This is what I feel. This is my own idea. I am imposing this thing on my own self. So better to say I must be on a diet. But I have to be on a diet. Sentences are both correct. I have to be on a diet, but this seems a compulsion because doctor has instructed it. The obligation comes from somewhere else. Doctor has instructed it. But in the first case, it's my own idea. When obligation comes from the speaker, when it's imposed by your own self, then you must use must. Otherwise, you should use have to. This slight difference. Similarly, we have this must and ought to. As I said, must also shows logical sanity. What's this? जो आपको लगता है कि यकीनी बात है, बिल्कुल यकीनी बात है. Living in such a crowded city must be difficult. Living in crowded cities is difficult. It's logical, so it must be difficult. So ought to, but expresses moral obligation. Must also expresses obligation, but if you want to show moral obligation, then we have to, it's better to say we ought to love our neighbors. It's our moral obligation. We ought to help him. So again, moral obligation. This is something desired from us. ये हमसे जो है. So these are certain things about must and ought to. We will carry on the discussion. I have divided these topic into a lot of fragments because बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स ने बताया भी कि लंबे 10-15 मिनट 20 मिनट के जो वीडियोस हैं तो उनमें कंसंट्रेशन फिर रहती नहीं है. बस ये 5-6-8 मिनट 10 मिनट का वीडियो जो है मैं सोचता हूँ कि इतना काफ़ी है. इसका बाकी हिस्सा जो है वो हम अगले सेशन में इंशाल्लाह ताला आपसे डिस्कस करेंगे. बने रहिए. और अगर आपको लगता है कि कहीं पर हम डिविएट कर रहे हैं, ये एक्चुअल ज़रूरत जो है बुनियादी तौर पर क्लासरूम में स्टूडेंट्स को, तो आप मुझे मुतल्लक़ कीजिए. व्हाट्सएप नंबर जो आपके पास मैंने ऑलरेडी दिया हुआ है, अगर आपको फिर से ज़रूरत हो तो आप मुझे बता दीजिएगा. यूट्यूब लिंक्स जो हैं उस पर आप कमेंट कर सकते हैं, लिख सकते हैं, और आई एम ऑलवेज रेडी टू आंसर एनी ऑफ योर क्वेरीज. सो थैंक यू वेरी मच दिस टाइम.